Every great story has a turning point the audience doesn't see coming, but the Bible goes one step further. It often hides the most powerful transformations in the scenes no one claps for, the ones no one records or turns into wall art. These are the chapters where God is working on the person praying just as much as He is working on the prayer itself. If prayer had a soundtrack, this part of the story wouldn't begin with music. It would begin with construction notes, hammering, sharpening, rebuilding, because prayer is not just a cry for change. It is the workshop where God changes the one who is crying out. Let's look at scene 1. Nehemiah, the man who prayed before he built. Before Nehemiah became the rebuilder of Jerusalem's walls, he was a cupbearer in a foreign palace. His job was tasting wine, not rewriting history. But one day, a report arrives from home. Jerusalem is in ruins. The people are broken. The walls are gone. The words hit him like falling stones. The heartbreak is instant, but the calling is not. Because Nehemiah doesn't run to the king first. He runs to prayer first. He weeps. He fasts. He prays for days. This wasn't because God needed time to notice him. It was because Nehemiah needed time to become someone the assignment could trust. He needed to carry the next chapter without ego, without panic, without self-credit trying to steal the scene. Then, finally, he goes before the king. His face is thinner, his sincerity deeper, his awareness sharper. The king sees sadness written across Nehemiah's expression like a watermark and asks, "Why are you sad?" In that critical moment, Nehemiah silently prays again, a micro prayer inside a major moment. Here's what prayer rebuilt in him first: compassion stronger than his ambition, patience deeper than his urgency, awareness louder than his fear, and a heart anchored enough to build without needing applause. Then Nehemiah speaks his request. The king grants him permission. And suddenly, the man who once carried cups is now carrying lumber, leadership, and a legacy. But the real rebuild happened long before the wall did. The rebuild happened inside Nehemiah, through prayer that drafted his heart before it drafted his mission. The narrative truth is this: God rebuilds the listener before the leader, the carrier before the crown, the heart before the platform. Now, let's turn to scene 2. Joseph, the dreamer. Prayer rebuilt into a story carrier. Joseph dreamed early in his life, but it was prayer that rebuilt him through the difficult middle chapters: the pit, the prison, the years of injustice. He prayed with a heart that kept turning toward God, even when life kept turning against him. The pit tested his faith. The prison tested his patience. The palace tested his humility. And prayer tested his presence with God and rebuilt it. And when Joseph finally stands in the daylight of influence, he says that unforgettable line that prayer had built into him first: "You meant this for harm, but God scripted it for good." Prayer had rebuilt his perspective long before the world ever read about his promotion. The truth here is that prayer builds a vision strong enough to reinterpret pain into purpose, not just request an escape from it. Now, let's step into today's mirror story, the modern construction side of a believer's heart. In the quiet nights of life, there are two kinds of believers: the one who prays only until the answers are delayed, and the one who prays until their heart doesn't need proof to keep returning. This story honors the second one. Think about it. A mother prayed for her child's healing, but prayer rebuilt her stamina to mother through the uncertainty. A father prayed for provision, but prayer rebuilt his patience to trust without theatrics. A teenager prayed for identity, but prayer rebuilt her inner voice to hear God louder than her insecurity. A preacher prayed for strength, but prayer rebuilt his surrender to stop performing devotion and start living it. Because here is what prayer rebuilds invisibly, in silence and in waiting. Consistency that doesn't need applause, honesty that doesn't sound scripted, awareness that stays awake when strength lies down, and faith that returns even when the skies stay quiet. It builds a direction that stays fixed even when posture shifts, and an identity anchored enough to carry future influence without ego editing God out of the picture. Prayer is the unseen workshop where God builds the carrier before he builds the answer. And here is the beautiful plot twist most people never zoom into. God sometimes allows the answer to be delayed, not because he said no, but because he said, not yet. Not until prayer has rebuilt you into someone the next chapter can trust to stand without disconnecting. This is the emotional core of it all. You prayed for a miracle, but God was working for a present heart in you first. You prayed for a rewrite of your story, but God is rewriting the one praying through that rewrite, too. You prayed for influence, but God is building a sincerity in you that can influence others without you collapsing or disconnecting from Him when the numbers don't prove anything yet. Because prayer doesn't just move God toward your situation, prayer moves God toward you. And sometimes, the greatest miracle is not the answer you receive. It is the person you become while you are waiting for it. But now, the next question rises like the start of a new scene. If prayer rebuilds our identity, stamina, perspective, and awareness in the silence, what happens when that prayer enters a new season? A season where it no longer sounds like construction noise, but sounds like influence ready to be published into someone else's survival story. Because the one who is rebuilt by prayer eventually becomes the voice that helps rebuild others. And that chapter begins next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.